Hello, everyone. It's me, Steve, your old pal Steve, hosting this week for our other two friends, Jason and Kaylin.
I'm really surprised you guys wanted to do this movie. I couldn't believe it. I didn't even, watching this movie, I didn't even think this was a time loop movie. You guys might have to explain it to me. But I sat all the way through Boss Baby, and I just could not find. Is it like a fan theory that this movie Boss Baby is a time loop movie, or
Jason, we're not doing Boss Baby.
Wait,
we're doing
what?
Boss Battle. It's a movie
Battle.
about a bunch of teenagers who are on a beach trying to kill each other because they got bombs in their necks.
That's Battle Royale, Steve.
Ah, gee whiz.
So I watched Boss Baby. You watched Battle Royale. We lost Kaylin on the Insta.
Oh.
Damn. Kaylin, you look exactly.
I'll invite him again.
So the Insta is neither here nor there. The Instagram, you'll either watch or you don't. More likely you're watching the Zoom call because it's much better quality. Kaylin, you look like this TikToker from Australia that I follow, and he's very.
Oh yeah, does he make money?
I think he does.
I don't know. Yeah, he's got a Twitch.
I think he's also like a retired comedian or something.
Yeah.
Taking care of his kids and stuff now.
He did comedy in the 90s, I believe, but he's got the. I'm just realizing I watched this dude and I go, who the fuck does this guy look like? And today you have your hair slicked back. You look just like him. I'll send you a picture.
Yeah, you're looking good, brother. Looking good. Looking handsome as heck.
Well, thank you. You guys too kind. I'm blushing. What's up?
I can see you. You're not blushing.
I just said that to make you feel better, but I forgot that you can see me.
if you're watching the Instagram,
this is not a phone call. It's a Zoom call.
If you're watching the Instagram, my color looks very good. But if you're watching the Zoom call, I look like I'm dying. I'm white. My skin is as white as it could be.
Wait, you're white?
I'm actually Latino.
Oh my
God. Say?
All right, you're going to jail.
Okay,
so the movie that we are doing this week is Boss Baby, starring Alec Baldwin as a baby. I had the same bit, Jason. You did. I was gonna spend the first 15 minutes just making references to Boss Baby because I would rather talk about that than this movie.
Were there any tie-ins to that movie with this movie?
Oh man, they're like the same movie.
Basically the same movie.
It's basically the same. No, I won't talk about Boss Baby. I don't want to talk about Boss Baby. I want to talk about this movie. And the movie that we are going to talk about today is Boss Level, right?
Okay. It is Boss
Level.
Not Battle Royale.
Boss Level. A movie starring Naomi Watts, Mel Gibson, Will Sasso, and what's the first guy's name? Ken Jeong.
Oh,
Ken Jeong, a couple other people, and then we got our boy Frank Grillo.
Frank Grillo.
Like that.
Frank Grilled Cheese.
And everyone's most infamous. Did you already say Mel?
Oh yeah, we know Mel's in this. He's the reason that like dads all around North America are renting and buying this movie because they see Mel Gibson on the poster and they're like, "Wait, Mel's back? I thought he got canceled for good."
Him back.
Yeah.
Before we
let him back in. That means we all have hope.
I just
I'm
want to point.
Surprised he got back.
He didn't really go away. He did all that shit and was basically untouched by it because he's a white man.
Yeah, but you talk to like an elderly man in their like 60s or whatever. I mean, that's not elderly yet, but approaching elderly.
They don't have the internet, so they don't know that he went on a
racist...
they
definitely have the internet.
They don't know that he went on a racist tirade against his ex-wife and called her, hope that she got effed by a gang of...
No. We don't need to talk about this. But what we do need to talk about is that my parents are of like, it's the opposite where they think that like when you get canceled, you're gone for good. And Mel Gibson was like canceled before cancel culture was like everywhere.
Yeah.
And he was like, he laid low, but he wasn't gone. It's not like they took all his money away and said, give us the Oscars back.
No, he did Passion of the Christ and Apocalyptico or whatever.
Apocalypto was good.
Yeah,
I think Apocalypto was after, and I think Passion of the Christ was
like during or right
just before. Yeah,
He hasn't really done anything besides this movie of note, though, that I can think of. Like, he's probably makes a cameo in like the Expendables, one of the Expendables
Daddy's
movies.
Home 2 or whatever it is.
Oh yes, he's in the Daddy's Home movie.
I remember seeing a movie. I can't remember what movie it was, but I was with my friend Cam, and he turned to me and he said, "Probably not the best climate for him to be making his comeback." And it was like right around when all the Me Too stuff was happening, and I was like, "Yeah, sure, good point."
Yeah. I think this is
Can't you see they're pointing out the evil of men, Mel? Take a step back. You're the most evil man of them all.
To go to my theory that we've talked about the last couple of weeks, I think this is in the geezer teaser genre. I think they probably we'll get into it as we go through it too. We have some me and Steve are part of this other movie chat, and Brian, friend of the show, he was telling us
what other movie chat? Why am I not in this?
Because you don't have
chat?
Facebook.
Okay, that's true.
He was telling us about
subscribe to the government control, Kalen. Get
this
vaccinated, bro.
Was in development hell since like 2013, and
I heard
Hulu,
about that.
Blumhouse actually sued Hulu over different edits and cuts of this movie. And I think this might have been
several different cuts that exist on different platforms.
Yeah, this might be a situation where be a situation where they had Mel Gibson's name. They tried to sell the movie with Mel Gibson's name, and then they worked backwards from there, because that's definitely what it feels like. And it's crazy because Mel Gibson's the only person that puts on a decent performance in the movie. Not decent, a good performance. I like Frank Grillo. He's passable. That was my only thing with him. I didn't need him to be the narrator and the main character who had the lion's share of the lines in the movie, because it felt like he was just always talking.
Fair.
And he's just he's just kind of like, and then I did this, and I was sexy, and I liked sexy women, and I had a bad day today, and tomorrow's gonna be the same. And then I got shot, and getting stabbed is worse than getting shot. I got stabbed in the nuts once, and I did get stabbed in the nuts once, and then I died, and that's kind of what a lot of it felt like to listen.
Yeah,
I just
listen.
Sorry,
I think we're already getting into ranting territory here, so let's just do our quick opening show housekeeping. I'll start with Kalen this week. Kalen, when was the first time you saw this movie?
The first time
you were the one to enlighten us about this.
So this is true. I did. Well, I forget how we got on the. I think we started with Groundhog's Day, and then it was is there any other movies that do that shtick? So I saw this movie on Prime. I think it's on Prime.
Yeah.
I don't think it's on. Is it on Netflix? I'm not sure. No. So I got a family hookup with Prime, and so I was checking out. Okay, let's see what's on here that isn't on Netflix or whatever. And this was on. I remember seeing. I think I would have saw an ad for it like on the internet. Like I don't remember really seeing much about it in theaters or anything like that. I don't have cable anymore. So I probably would have saw an ad on the internet. And then I got a hookup for Prime through the family member. So that was like last year, which was a few months, depending on when.
The way you keep saying I got a hookup from a family member makes you seem like you are have some weird dark internet version of Prime where you're like, yeah, it was a family friend. Hooked me up with Prime.
It's got 4 checks instead of 3.
Yeah.
But I'm now curious about what these other edits might look like. First time I saw it, I guess, was last year. It was these 4 movies that we're doing this month are the only movies I think I've seen with this gimmick. And I'm trying to remember the order of them, because Groundhogs was definitely the first one. I think Edge might have been the second one. And then I think the one we're doing next week was the third one. And then this was the 4th one. So it's definitely a lot more heavy, like gameplay kind of editing and effects or whatever, so to speak. I enjoyed it for a movie, like to just, watch it, figure out like one, that this guy's repeating this thing, and so he kind of has to like master the level or whatever to get to the boss. and then also what's causing it kind of thing. So it was kind of like fun to, it was captivating in that sense of watching it to find out what the hell was going on. As far as the movie is concerned, I felt it was okay. I can't wait to hear your guys' deep dives on it, but it was in the same lines of this gimmick, and I figured, hey, if you guys haven't seen it yet, you might enjoy it as worth a watch. Anyway, worth a watch. Don't get out of your way, but it might be worth a watch.
Jason,
you're right. You're right. That's the way that you presented it to us, and that's basically how this movie was presented to me. Was just you mentioning this movie. I remember the name of the movie. I think you're right. I think it was one of those movies where clicking around on the internet, it was on bit like those banners around, because I think they were pushing this movie really, really hard when it came out early 2021, I think.
That or 20, yeah.
Yeah, it came out in 2021.
It says 2021 on Google, like when you Google it on Wikipedia, but I was reading about it and it said 2020, so I'm thinking it might have been in theaters like last Christmas, like Christmas 2020. Unless it wasn't in theaters, it just came out as like a holiday thing.
These are the kinds of movies where they would have to put them out in theaters even with like super limited attendance, because they don't have the budget like a Nolan to wait, to be like, I'm gonna wait and I'm gonna delay, or like all the Marvel movies where they delayed everything. This movie's like, we gotta just put it out. We already spent all the money. We can't bleed money on it.
Do we know if this movie was in theaters? Because it is a Hulu. It says Hulu original on the.
I feel like it was a streaming service movie.
Like Hulu in the States.
I don't think
Amazon Prime in Canada.
Yeah, 2020 and 2021 were not the best for me ever seeing a movie. I saw, I think, Suicide Squad 2. That was the only thing I've seen since lockdown. How was
it?
It was great.
It's a good movie.
Excellent.
So just to let me finish up here. Just let me finish up here. I do recall this movie coming out. I do recall like watching through it. I was like, I think I watched a trailer for this. I remember Mel Gibson being in like a video gamey movie.
Yeah.
I kind of remember this whole thing when Kaylin mentioned the like website banners. I kind of started to like remember that, and it would have been. So I watch trailers for movies I'm probably not going to watch typically, because movies I'm going to watch, they spoil the whole movie in a lot of trailers. I did watch the Multiverse of Madness trailer, because I'm finding now the fucking trailers are like can't miss or you'll get spoiled on stuff. So I digress. This was my first time seeing this movie and my first time really wrapping my head around it, because in my head up until today, I thought it was going to be a time loop movie that was set in like medieval times. For some reason, Boss Level reminds me of like you're fighting. The title evokes the thought that it's about a knight trying to make it to a dragon, which is kind of what it is. If you consider
it doesn't evoke that out of me.
It doesn't evoke that from you. Well, you've seen the movie, but in my head, I was like, Boss Level. This knight, it has to get to the dragon to save the princess. But really, if you think about it, he kind of did. He kind of had this knight. He's more like a commando type. Has to get to this like big red-faced, snarling racist to save his what's it called when they put a woman in the movie just to be the woman in the movie? Because that's what she was.
You mean all the women in this movie?
All the women in most action movies.
They're all vassals for this guy's personal growth, of which he has none.
Yeah. That French girl, they just kind of I thought she was going to be something, but
I am the wise bartender.
I am the wise bartender.
I was never go home with you. We would have wild sex, but we would never.
We would never fall in love. But I would have sex with you.
Physical level, like we could.
I would give you a hand job through a table, like it's called milking porn.
Oh my god!
It's like a glory hole, but.
Anyway. I already called the police before. They're gonna double arrest you.
There's an episode of I've been watching Dave. Dave is an excellent show, and there's an episode where him and his girlfriend are having great sex. So she's like, "Well, what are you into? I want my ass eaten." And he's like, "Well, I want to be milked."
Right.
It's a great show. It's really funny.
I want to be milked. Okay, well, I suppose that is your first viewing of the movie, and you have nothing else to add.
Emphasis on getting milked.
Yeah. All right. Let's all
add that again.
Think about that for a second. A moment of silence. Me. Now it's me. I am Steve, and I saw this movie for the first time yesterday, having purchased it many months ago, never having watched a trailer.
Oh, no.
All I knew from it was its poster. I bought it for $2 on sale because it was a digital deal or whatever, a digital steal. And I just sat in my library, and every time I pass it, I'd be like, maybe I should watch this now. And then I rewatch it before the podcast so that I can talk about it like a fresh mind and a second view. And then watching this movie for the first time last night, all I could think was, glad I didn't watch this before, because I would have never wanted to watch it again. This movie is quite possibly the worst thing I've seen in the last 3 years.
I don't think it's that bad. I had more fun watching this than I did Halloween. I know it's
oh my god.
I know Halloween is a more significant movie. It's way better.
I will fight you to the death on this movie being better than Halloween.
Not better than Halloween.
Blueprint of all horror.
I think I might have had more fun watching it. Halloween felt like I was in film school, and this movie felt like it was Sunday afternoon, and I was in my underwear, and I'm hungover. This movie made me hungover.
Yeah, for me, it was Tuesday night. I had some friends over. I was looking at a screen, and I was wondering if I could get a refund on the $2 I spent on this movie the whole time.
Well, you could just stream it off Prime or whatever. You don't have to buy it.
I bought it because it was on sale for $2, and I was like, "Oh, it's probably all right." Yeah. It's got Naomi Watts in it. It's got Mel Gibson in it. It's got fucking Brumlow from the Marvel MCU in it. Like, whatever. It's probably fine. At worst, it's probably fine. And then I watched it, and I was like, no, at worst, it is an unwatchable mess that I would never recommend anybody watch ever.
I know that's too harsh.
It's not. It is not.
In my opinion,
this movie should not be watched by anyone.
That's your opinion, though. That's your opinion, though, because I think that
it is my opinion, and I have lots of reasons why.
I think there's a specific group of people this is targeted to, and that targeted group of 50 to 60-year-old men would fucking die for this movie, and they would actually be complaining about it not having enough bare breasts. And to that point,
I signed up for bare breasts.
To that
all
point,
I got is bare fists.
When the movie comes on the screen, you get a sexual content warning. It says like violence, swearing, sexual content. And
because
then
they fucking grind each other on the bar.
Well, the one time they're about to show what happened before they fall asleep and wake up, he gets shirtless and they pass out, and that's what happened. That's
they hired him for his guns. He's a very muscular man.
He's very vascular.
Very vascular.
His arms looked awesome. I think Frank Grillo should play Craven the Hunter if he wasn't already Crossbones. I think he's a good enough actor.
I could see that. That looks really cool. I could picture that.
They should do like a what if where like he was Captain America and he got somehow he's like a Winter Soldier. He gets like his superpowers or whatever.
Bring back Crossbones, because Crossbones is a pretty cool character. I know he's like a C-list, like whatever, villain? But he's a pretty significant villain.
Yeah, there's a reason they killed off Crossbones 15 minutes after he was introduced.
He gets blown up like he's nothing. Yeah. They even gave him like sweet gear.
Yeah, he's like, we didn't face each other like this last time. And then like a second later, he spins off into a building and it gets killed by chaos magic or whatever.
It's like how fucking Boba Fett just gets murdered.
Boba Fett where?
Just retcon that he lives, and then make a whole series out of Crossbones, so we can see vascular Frank Grillo reprise the role as Mardlow or whatever his name is.
I thought his name is Brumlow.
Do those things on your wall give you a hug?
Oh, those are actually envelopes for the game that I work on.
Okay, nice.
You get like envelopes in the mail, and they have a bunch of puzzles.
Itself. Yeah. Do you need a hug, buddy? Do you need me to send you a hug in the mail?
Yeah, I mean, I can send you one if you would like, and you can hug it. I'll spray some of my cologne on there.
Okay.
It'll be like hugging me in real life.
And maybe one day you'll be able to do that, but for reasons you won't.
Yes, I won't do that. I don't even know what they are. So anyway, okay, those are our first times watching the movie. Two of us watched it in the last 48 hours, and the other one watched it a while ago. One of us says it's worth a watch. The other one says it's worth a watch if you're hungover on a Sunday in your underwear on the couch. And the other one says I would never recommend this even to my worst enemy.
That's pretty much I think what the bulk of tonight's show is going to be like, because I'm just gonna take the lead since I'm kind of the middleman here, and I'm gonna tell you why
between me and Kaylin.
No, like
literally
I'm in the middle for my like review. I gave this movie. I'm just gonna let the cat out of the bag, and I gave this movie a 2.4 out of 5.
Almost half.
Probably my lowest rating I've ever given. Probably much higher than Steve would give it, and probably lower than what Kaylin would give it. I had this movie at a 3.1, believe it or not. But I had to drop it a whole half a grade because the ending killed it.
Ending?
Yes.
You had it that high up until the ending of the movie?
Up until
that's the best
he
part.
Kisses the girl, and then he just goes in and his eyes do the little spinny thing, and then the credits roll. I was like, what?
Are you talking about Boss Baby again?
No. I really enjoyed they didn't overdo the time loop bit. We didn't have to rewatch the whole day every single time. They just cut right back to like where he was in the day and would move it forward a little bit. I really like when he's like, this is the furthest I've ever been. I really like that kind of stuff. And remember how last week I hated the montage in Edge of Tomorrow where he's training?
Yeah, you hated you said there were too many montages in Edge of Tomorrow, too many montages in Groundhog's Day, and now you're saying that they had the perfect amount. They had four separate montages.
They were short. The sword fighting bit was the exact same gimmick from Groundhog Day with the piano. It's exactly the same, but this time it took 5 minutes.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say, but this time they got Michelle Yeoh so that you could suck in even more old weirdos, like people who are just like, oh, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon's my favorite movie.
Well, that's a great point. And that's a good pull. It's gonna blow your mind even more. I was saying this to you before we started the show, but Kaylin, I got in the first act of this movie, I got John Carpenter's Big Trouble in Little China vibes.
That is the characterization that you would even say these two movies in the same breath.
At the same time, I know that's very controversial to say, but at the same time, there was a part of this movie towards the second act, before he starts, right around where he right before he decides that he's going to say fuck it, the fuck it montage that only lasts for 1 minute. He doesn't like try to kill himself 82 times like in Groundhog Day. I was like, that's perfect, because like this guy has to figure out. It's not so.
The montage of Bill Murray killing himself in Groundhog's Day is extremely palpable, poignant, and also serves a purpose. The montages in this serve one purpose, and it's to be like, this is why he's slightly better at fighting now, because he did this. Like Bill Murray killed himself because he entered into a deep dark depression that he could not get out of.
I know, and that's really hard to watch.
How do I get from over here to over here?
That's hard to watch, especially now as an adult. That's hard. Like that was hard to sit and watch. Made me feel feelings. If you take this movie on its base level of you order it or stream it when you're hungover on a Sunday afternoon, or a Sunday movie, or hanging out with your friends who like dumb action movies, this is a good watch. It's not going to change your life. It's not going to make you feel feelings. You're just going to go, yeah, cool kill. But then you get to the ending and you look at the time stamp. It has some pretty cool kills, in my opinion.
No, it doesn't.
He stabs Will Sasso in the face, and then he's like, I smell muffins. So dumb. But I laughed out loud. It was dumb.
You laughed out loud at that?
Yes.
Oh
Steve, it's not. This isn't a thinker.
I know that. I'm not gonna be like, ew, this movie.
We're doing
really made
one
me
genre
think.
of movie this month, but this month we do 4 separate genres of
I
movie.
found out that there is another time loop movie that we all overlooked, and it's called Naked, starring Marlon Wayans, where he wakes up naked on his wedding day over and over again. And I wish that I watched that instead of this movie.
Well, maybe next year we can try to find 3 indie movies that have the time loop. But I
think there's a Christmas one.
Just let me finish. Yeah. This movie does very well what it's supposed to do, and that's supposed to make you turn your brain off and not think. You were complaining about the editing in this movie, and I thought the movie, I didn't notice the editing because the movie looked good enough. The special effects.
What kind of editing? Like, what do you mean by bad editing?
Like
narrative. No, narrative editing.
Okay.
The story can be told out of order based purely on the mechanic of what's happening in the movie.
Yeah.
And they decided to do the thing that we've talked about in the last 2 movies, which was all 3 of these scripts had called for the protagonist of the movie to be already in the time loops, and that's revealed to you as you go through the movie, which would be an interesting concept if all of these movies didn't advertise on time loops. And also they reveal it. Like in this movie, it's not like you learn that he's a time looper over like the course of half an hour. It's
he's been at it for months.
Oh no, he's like, hey, good morning, it's me, and I got some shit to loop about, and he's like dancing around looping.
But dude, let me just finish my thought here, because you're gonna have ample time to talk about how you hated it, and Kaylin, you're gonna have ample time to talk about how you liked it. But I'm right on that fence because I see it for what it is, and I had fun turning my brain off. Like I said, we did 1 genre of movie this month, but we're doing 4 separate genres of movie. Groundhog Day is a fucking romantic comedy, but it's like a dark romantic comedy, right?
Yeah.
Edge of Tomorrow, hard sci-fi. Just a sci-fi, just for the sci-fi fan, fucking perfect. And then next week is a mumblecore, like modern, modern comedy, like a Judd Apatowian branded comedy, and it's really well written. It's more of a character study of these two people. And this one is just 80s dumb action bullshit, but it looks good for like what was the
I'm also going to say it doesn't look good.
I thought that it looked good for a movie that was streaming. I think this could have been in theaters and non-pandemic. I think
maybe my version was a higher resolution, but like the everything looked bad. It all looked like stock at the beginning. It all looked like stock special effects, like the blood squibs going off. They're just like powder clouds.
Yeah,
of
those
red.
are.
And I'm like, oh, those are digital squibs, and they look like shit.
Yeah, those are plugs. Those are plugins or plugs or whatever they're called. But I'm talking about some of the explosion special effects looked really good. Didn't need to look that good. It could have all looked like a sci-fi channel movie. And
do you remember when he jumps into the helicopter and he looks like Zaboomafoo?
Yeah, yes, there was
like the
one
CG Zaboomafoo.
Yes, but they also didn't need to have the set for that room be able to have the helicopter come in.
Are you guys familiar with Neil Breen?
It's not that bad. Come on.
No, what I'm saying is that if Neil Breen made this movie, it would have been like 10 times more enjoyable to watch.
Yeah, because it would have been a so bad it's good, dumb The Room style movie. I'm trying to say,
like, I've been trapped in these loops for a long time.
I think you're getting it wrong, Steve. I didn't like this movie.
Well, I thought you got Groundhog's Day wrong, so it happens.
I'm saying that I enjoyed this movie for what it was, and I can see the demographic that it's for, and I think for what it's trying to do, it does it very well. Because it also it was so dumb that they tried to add a layer of video game to it, like that little bit at the beginning, the kid being I hated that. I was like, you don't need this. You don't need this in here. And the ending, fuck off. Tell me what happens next.
So the ending, though, part of me agrees with you, fuck off. But if they gave us an ending, like an actual ending, we would have been like, oh man, they should have just left it as a cliffhanger. Kind of like how we said on Edge of Tomorrow.
I would never say that for this. I was like, oh, cool.
The ending was just as bad as the rest of the movie.
What I just want to say, I'll stop talking. I just wanted to get my in-between on the fence view out. The ending pissed me off so much because I was into the movie at this point. I'm like, cool. He got the girl. He had 14 minutes to get there, flew the helicopter over. That was a cool little thing. Fucking busts in, kills everybody with a minigun. Awesome. Gets the girl, saves her, right? Then I'm going, cool, 9 minutes left. We're gonna get a nice, like, he's gonna save the day. We're gonna see what happens after. It goes, he kisses her, unnecessary once again, because it's like you're split. It's your ex-wife. Like you were married. Like you don't fall back in love just because he saved the world.
Wait, was that unnecessary again in reference to the Edge of Tomorrow kiss again? Because the Edge of Tomorrow kiss was totally appropriate, and I think that it deserved its moment to be.
Well, that was more appropriate, but I'm almost done. He goes into the thing. The day is saved, and now I'm ready to see a little epilogue, and we get credits as the last 9 minutes of this movie. It's billed on every single website. It's an hour and 40 minutes runtime, and I get that credits take up time, but typically when it says an hour and 40 minutes, the credits are like 5 minutes or like.
Yeah, and I think that for them to be able to claim that the movie's still going, is that they have to have some sort of visual element,
and it looks like dumb Matrix writing, right? I get it, and that was the greatest injustice for this movie, because I wanted an epilogue.
What did you? So what were they going to continue from that day? Were they going to go back to the day again?
That's the alternate ending. So there is an alternate ending that was released for this movie, and the end of the movie is him opening his eyes, and it's meant to be the last day again, and he says, here we go again, but he knows now how to fix the day, and it's supposed to be implied that like, and then he saves the day, but you don't actually see him save the day. It's like, now we're going through the day where he saves the day, kind of thing.
Well, he should have done the thing, and then the thing happens, and then there's a moment where he's down on the ground like, and she's like, let's go see our son, and then there's him and the son, and they hold hands and go into the sunset, if they're gonna push that angle or something like that. I just wanted to see.
Are you sitting here saying what this movie should have done? There's so many things this movie should have done.
It should have done anything but just end with his fucking brain scrambling.
Well, we don't know that that's what happened. Maybe he got added back into the equation. Maybe he refused to sign the divorce papers, and this was her only way to get it to happen.
Anyway, I'm done. I've covered everything I want to talk about this movie. I didn't hate it. I didn't hate it as much as Steve. I didn't like it as much as Kaylin.
Cool.
Let's get some polarizing fucking views from
polarizing opinions up in here. My first note was the opening was meh. That was my very first note. And then I have in a box next to that, which I think I wrote much later, I hate this movie.
They put Rob Gronkowski in this movie for some reason too. Like, that was a really random cameo to have Gronk. He's the guy on the minigun in the helicopter. He's a football player, if you guys didn't know. He's a very famous football player.
He probably works out with Mark Brillo or whatever.
Right?
What's his name? I don't know.
Brillo?
Call him Mark Brillo.
Brillo.
The Brillo pad. That's what we call
him.
What's
that pasta
got a soft
called?
Chest. What?
Which pasta?
Is there a Castillo pasta or something like that?
Oh, possibly.
I don't know my pastas. I like the tubes. I like the spindly guys. I like the spaghetti.
I like the braids. They're hard to find. I like the
braids. I like the braids. They're so good. So like the movie, just to give it a brief synopsis, like basically this guy's wife works at a laboratory where they're trying to figure out time travel, and she loads his DNA into the machine, which gives him the ability to relive the same day over and over and over again. But he keeps dying because her boss has hired a bunch of assassins to kill him. The assassins becoming increasingly more difficult as he goes along.
Increasingly more ridiculous. I wouldn't say more difficult. There is kind of a final boss, but
yeah, the final boss is Mel Gibson in a typical anticlimactic video game fashion. He gets basically just beat up most of the time. But it does look like he's a competent fighter when they do fight at the end. They like have a good.
Oh, I meant the sword brawl chick, and I really hated that.
No, I know what you mean. She's like the person who's like in like a NES like side scroller, like a Streets of Rage or whatever.
Yeoh Wei, because I am Yeoh Wei, and I have done this. Whoever wrote that into the script.
Her name's Guan Yin.
Guan Yin, whatever. Whoever wrote the I am Guan Yin, and I have done this. That made me want to punch the screen more than.
How did he know?
That's literally the only thing about this movie that I like.
That's crazy. That's
the only thing about this movie I like.
I cringed the first time. I was like, okay, funny. That's gonna be her thing, and then he's gonna say it later, and then she said it 17 times, and then he
says it, I hate it. But every time she says it, I'm like,
it was telegraphed.
That's her thing that she says when she kills somebody. It makes sense that she's going to be saying it every time she kills them.
How does he know though? How does he know?
Because he heard. Because she always says it after. That's a good point.
Your head is still conscious for 20 seconds after you've been decapitated.
Yeah, and he does.
Is that true?
Yep.
There is one time where she says it.
That's why I always hold them up so they can look at the body. That's from The Exorcist 3. It's a quote. I'm not saying that, Steve.
Yeah, right, Steve. Are you trying to?
Oh God, let's move on. Now the police are saying that I'm going to jail.
Have you been leaving clues in all of these podcasts?
Yeah. That I'm some sort of like strangler or some. I don't know. I feel like strangler is the funniest thing to like be a serial killer of. It's like it's a funny sounding word. There's a lot of ups and downs in there.
AKA Toby, possibly Jim.
Or Dwight. Dwight seems like no, he shoots coffins with a shotgun.
Yeah, he loves the Scranton Strangler because the Scranton Strangler is like he looks up to him. He could never do that. He's probably his own fucking villain. The fucking beat murderer.
Anyway, so that's the base premise, and then along the way he figures out his wife is not dead, and he's trying to save her from dying, and then in doing that they end up having his son die in another area of the city. So he like goes through these loops of like trying to save his son, trying to save his wife, and then in the end he is able to stop it from looping by talking to his wife in a way he hasn't before or some shit.
Steve, your sister, I think, wants in.
Oh my God. Do you guys want a guest right now for this pile of shit?
No, because it's not going to translate to the.
It might make.
We can't. Yeah, we can't do it. Okay, sorry, Kaylee, we can't do it right now.
We'll have you on for another episode, but
yeah, we'll plan it out.
Saying that she likes this movie.
I don't know. She just said she'd love to be a part of the conversation, but
sorry,
I forgot that we were doing the multiple
We'll put you on
recordings.
the short list of future guests because I'd like to hear what you have to say about movies.
Anyway, he then realizes that he has to go into the machine or something because his DNA is used for it to complete some bullshit words. They just say a bunch of words and then you're like, oh yeah, so it makes sense. That's not a thing that bugs me in movies, but when they act like it is a part of it, like it's a thing that's like he's learning specifically before he goes in. I'm like, why are you telling me this? She could just be like, you have to go in to complete the DNA code. That's the only way. She doesn't have to go into the science of it. Anyway, he goes in, the movie ends. As I said, there's an alternate ending where he wakes up again and he has to start the game, and it's called The Final Day or something, whatever. I don't think that ending would have had me be like, oh, it is good after all. I have a lot of issues with this movie.
Dude, everything that I said during my little trying to just be the guy in the middle.
I'll be the guy at the other side of the fence.
Little rabbit turds all over.
I'm sitting there with like a baseball bat, like with a bunch of nails in it, and I'm just like dragging it on the fence while Jason's sitting on top of the fence. And I'm like, I'm gonna kill you. This fucking movie sucked.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. What's this, Kaylin?
There are concepts in this movie that I appreciate. There are things that I like in this movie that exist that I'm like, oh, I like that this exists, but I hated everything about the movie, that even the things that I liked about it did not make me get to a point where I elevated it enough to, I cannot recommend this movie to anybody. I don't know anybody in my life that I would show this to and they would be like, thanks for showing me that.
Well, that's funny you should say that because I'm going down to my dad's on Saturday, and I was considering showing this movie to him because if we get drunk and stoned at the same time and watch this together, it might be a father-son bonding experience because it's so dumb, but there's things in this movie we enjoy together. Like I watch all the MCU movies with him and they all vary in quality. I'm not saying this movie even touches even the worst MCU movie. Maybe the Hulk, the Incredible Hulk, but
that movie at least has a Hulk in it.
It's true. It does have a Hulk, and it has, Edward Norton being a good actor. This has Mel Gibson being the best actor in it, but he's even phoning it in. Naomi Watts barely has
think
lines.
that he also it's not like he had something to work with where I'm like, oh man, if Anthony Hopkins was delivering these lines, this shit would leap.
I did make a note about his monologue about the snake, about the python, and
it was a stupid analogy that was supposed to like basically say that like I'll do anything to stop my eggs from getting eaten. He's the snake.
I get that, but I'm saying his delivery of that moment was probably the best acting in the movie, because he
wasn't.
He put some passion into it.
Okay. Sorry, I can't talk about this movie in good acting because there isn't any.
I thought Mel Gibson was good enough, and Frank Grillo was passable.
Here, so you keep saying
Will
that
Sasso, this might be Will Sasso's best role, even though he was like just hired goon.
Oh God,
he did nail it.
Such a like complex filmography role. We've got to flip through for Will Sasso.
He was in the Three Stooges movie. Okay, would you rather watch this movie or the Three Stooges movie? Because that movie,
I would rather watch the Three Stooges movie.
Was it good?
No. I don't know. I would rather watch it than this again. I'm not. Listen, I'll watch it. I'll watch it as a challenge if you want. But I want to talk about that pig scene because I think it was really stupid, and I think that its purpose was served within seconds of her being in that room. Everything that he's trying to present to her via that story has already been presented by his office, by the way he's sitting, by the cigar, like way he's dressed, the way he presents himself. I already have successfully presented to me who this guy is. You don't need to have this big long and then the boar came for us and we killed the boar.
No, but that was for her though. That wasn't
got
for
eaten
him.
by a snake. What?
She was trying to protect her kid.
He is saying that the science is his eggs. Frank Grillo is the boar that he's going to kill, and obviously the movie itself is sort of like a secondary analogy or allegory of that story. The whole story is basically that, right? He is the wild boar trying to get into the thing, only he's the one who's trying to protect his eggs, so he's the snake as well. Anyway, it's a stupid dumb thing that I didn't like. It's again, it was accomplished within seconds. Didn't need to be as long as it is. And I don't need to go through my list of things that I didn't like. Let's just talk about the movie. I consider myself
to be quite quite knowledgeable about film and television. Mm-hmm. And I happen to think
that doesn't have to do with anything. Oh, this is what I wanted to say before. You keep talking about John Carpenter. If this movie was made by John Carpenter, it would be better. It would be a better movie.
Obviously, the director 100%. Of this movie directed fuck. I'm gonna pull his shit.
I can see this movie working with the charisma of somebody like Kurt Russell. Or if we were doing modern casting, you would want someone like Hemsworth or Pratt to be in there doing this stuff. He is like a bag of fucking mulch.
You don't like
he's
Frank?
Just I like him in other stuff. I don't like him in this movie. I don't like the way he's written. I don't like any of the lines that he delivers that are supposed to be gut chucklers. I'm sitting here being like, Hitler's gun. This is a funny concept that they're bombing with. It's it's like they threw it into a room of people that have never written any kind of comedy whatsoever and be like, here's the joke. Somebody who's been killing him has been using Hitler's gun the whole time, and she paid a lot of money about it. Write us a joke about it. And they're like, I don't know. She's like a weird nerd, and she talks about Hitler a little bit too much.
You know what other movies this dude wrote?
I like that joke. That's a thing that I'm like, this would be a good joke in something. And then the punchline is he shoots her and then says, "That's for the Jews," and walks away. That's like an improv line that they probably got in post, where he probably had a bunch of other lines that he said, and then he probably yelled that because he was frustrated that they had to film that scene too many times.
The director of this movie wrote a movie I hate as much as you hate this movie, Steve.
What movie is that?
The director of this movie wrote Bad Boys for Life. I hated that movie as much as you hate this movie.
You hated Bad Boys for Life Is that the newest one?
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Oh, I haven't seen it. I can't.
It sucks. It sucks so bad. Like, don't make it for.
I can't imagine it's worse than this movie though.
I don't think it's worse than this movie because it's still got that Michael Bay. I think it was still directed by Michael Bay. Like, it still has that Michael Bay look to it. It still has some good moments, but it was like the A-Team movie was written by the director of this movie.
Okay.
This guy directed. Hold on. This guy directed. Remember the movie Smokin' Aces?
Mm-hmm.
He directed that. He directed. Remember Narc? He directed Narc.
Oh God! So this guy he loves bounty hunters.
And he directed he wrote and directed the A-Team movie. So he's slumming it, trying to just put out Uwe Ball level movies and making.
But the difference between this person and Uwe Ball is that Uwe Ball like buys properties and gets tax breaks and does smart money making things.
Yeah, and that's
he's
the
running
theory
a business.
That's the same idea with the Bruce Willis movies, where they're just trying to just make money and make the movies for as cheap as possible and put them on Redbox.
I mean, every decade has it though. Like a new guy is getting old, and they're like, we just throw him on the DVD sleeve. People will buy it, man.
I just think that this movie has a lot more. You hated it so much that.
Okay, give me a redeeming quality then, and I will try to take it into consideration without jumping down your throat about something else.
What about when the waiter falls, like in Groundhog's Day?
No. You know why that was good in Groundhog's Day is because it happens like 4 or 5 times, and then he calls it out, and he has no reaction about it because he's seen it so many times. This fucking dumbass laughs every time. It's like you watch somebody falling on TikTok on a loop, and then by the 3rd loop, you're like, all right. Not funny anymore. This guy's still laughing about this guy tripping.
When I did my explanation, that was me trying to give redeeming qualities, because I do feel like I gave it less than 50%. I still want to hit home that I don't like this movie. I do kind of like this movie. I don't think it's a good movie. I think that it's very good at doing what it set out to do. I don't think they made this movie thinking it was going to be a fucking Lethal Weapon. I don't think they made this movie thinking it was going to
And no one's arguing that every movie that comes out needs to be Lethal Weapon, but if a movie is
but an action movie that is cheesy and is poorly written can still be a fun movie to watch. Do you in your household, do you have the Sunday movie I watch Bad Moms in this sort of context where I would never watch this movie normally, but I would put a movie on that I'm going to half pay attention to on a Sunday afternoon hungover.
I do, of course.
Yep.
A lot of them are like Rogan-y comedies usually.
Obviously a Seth Rogen comedy is leaps and bounds better than this thing, but I think this is the perfect movie to put on in certain circumstances and does a very good job at that. And I don't think this movie was ever meant to be talked about in this context as well.
I don't think
and that's
so
why
either.
I can see the redeeming qualities of it where
let me hit you with some context.
That they
context. Oh God.
How many attempts do you guys think it would take you to get good at
8?
Some of this?
If I had his reflexes and his muscles and his gun powers and stuff, 8 loops. I would be stuck
in this fucking loop forever because
why?
I am too dumb. I am dumber than everybody in every time loop movie because they always figure out the shit. Actually, it's funny because in this one we come in at attempt 145 and he's only made it to noon from 7 a.m.
How about the fact that he didn't open the book for over 100 loops, and he's like, oh yeah, she gave me this book, and I'm like, you didn't look at the book?
Maybe that
was the last thing she whispered into your ear before you got turned.
That's more realistic to me than Bill Murray figuring out that he's in a loop on the second day.
You would figure it out on the second day because everything that happened to you the day before is happening to you again. You would figure it out very quickly.
Okay, but he hasn't nailed.
The third day, definitely the third day.
He hasn't nailed on the third day.
He hasn't nailed?
On the third day, he's already running around quoting lines back to people. I would forget the lines that people are. I forget what people say to me.
You know what? It's probably evidence of them removing loops to be like, you know what, we need to make sure that we only keep the best stuff in this movie because if we have this fat, it's gonna bog down the pacing. And This movie had no pacing at all. It was like somebody running full tilt into a brick wall and then being like, oh, ow, and stopping for a second and then like moving to the door and then running full sprint into another brick wall.
It was 87 minutes, and I can't fault a movie for being short.
How many tries does it take you to beat a level on a video game?
Once, first time, almost every time.
But don't you play on super easy mode?
No, I play on normal. Normal. I know you play on fucking expert because you're a psycho, but but I play video games.
That means I would complete
they
this
were
game
intended to be played. I don't play Dark Souls games. I don't play roguelikes because I hate having to do shit over. Yes, that's true. And these time loop movies in the video game context, they're trying to be, especially Edge of Tomorrow and this one, they're trying to emulate that like video game where you start not knowing anything and then you have to like build up these skills like they're calluses. And I don't have
what do you think
time in my life.
Well, I mean, there are certain things in the game that I appreciate that they're doing with that, and I wish again that maybe they like lean harder into that. The fact that like the reason he's so shitty at doing the loops all the time is because he's never played a video game in his life, and if he had played a video game at some point in his life,
is that what they were trying to say
better.
With that scene where the kid's super into video games and he's like, I never played no video games, and then later he's like, I have heard of this e-tournament.
He is playing a video game. That's what he's doing. He's playing Dark Souls, and every time he dies, he has to go back to the beginning of the checkpoint that he has last saved, and like that's like hours of your day, like killing assassins and stuff.
Well, maybe there's something that the director missed about the screenplay that wasn't emphasized. If you're gonna,
so
you know what I mean? Because
I kind of wanted to talk more.
If you're gonna focus that hard on it, trying to be that what you're saying, and he's at 100, maybe it was meant to be like, wait, how's this guy at 145 and he's only made it to noon? Maybe the audience, it was poorly shown to us that we were supposed to pick up that, oh, this guy doesn't play video games, he sucks at doing things over and over and progressing.
Well, I think the reason I noticed it is because he's already been through like a billion loops at this point. You've seen him going through it all, and then to the kid, he's like, I don't play video games, it's for queers or whatever, and you're like, Jesus Christ, man. And then my reaction was, yeah, no shit, you don't fucking play video games. If you had played even one video game at all in your life, you would have read that book immediately after getting it. Like that's like, you watch the cutscene and someone's like, look in the book. Holy shit. You spend 100 times trying to kill everybody without looking at the phone.
That's because he was drunk and horny. He also what do you think, why does the memory keep remembering? What do you think? You know what I mean? Like,
what's causing him to be able to remember what happened?
Yeah,
because his consciousness is partially inside that machine.
That's the thing that makes these
told
movies
you
work.
that their explanation of stuff at the end was them just being like, science. The reason for it is science. And that's their explanation. And you're like, all right, fine. I'm okay with that, because there are a lot of other things in this movie I can complain about that aren't science. We figured it out using science.
I was taken aback at that moment where I was like, this doesn't sound like any science I've ever heard of, and it also sounds like what you're saying, where they were just like, just say some sciencey word, like almost like Naomi. They were like, Naomi Watts, we're gonna have to get you to say some sciencey improv. She was like, the Osiris staple and the matter of you become one again with the time nexus and the
strings from Uranus.
Yeah, it's that's one thing I didn't care for.
I feel like that's one of the more forgivable ones for me. I wanted to get back to the importance of editing again.
I know, but I wanted to hear Kalen talk about he seems to put this movie in a positive light, and we've both kind of set our piece, and I think the gimmick for this should be why I would like
to talk about the editing though at one point.
Of course. Yeah. I want to hear from Kalen why he would you're tearing us apart, buddy. It's almost like you had planned. You knew that I would kind of like this. You knew Steve, he's a stickler. You knew he would hate it. And then you seem to
I'm a stickler. This guy goes on a rant about how Groundhog's Day is like demonstrably anti-woman.
Yeah. I'm trying to keep up appearances because everybody thinks that I'm a misogynist.
Oh, God. Gross.
I'll take a massage.
Okay. Caleb, what give us the positive version of this mess.
Yes, please do. I will not interrupt you, or I'll try not to.
No, by all means, add to the story. That's what we're here for. I don't have much more to add than what you guys like. So both of you present truths of this movie. I'm very good at turning my brain off sometimes and just letting something entertain. Like I'm trying to think of an example where I'll come back to it, but like, yeah, like it's good enough. It's not like, I don't want to discredit anyone and any effort people put into things. Like it's good enough of there's aspects of it where it kind of feels almost like a high-end amateur movie or something. Like it, I would have gotten rid of, like, so the thing with Edge of Tomorrow, it had a video game feel without putting it in our face, like, ooh, video game or whatever kind of thing, right? And I think it would have done this movie justice to leave that video game aspect out, because it really didn't add to the movie other than kind of highlight the fact that he's repeating something, kind of like a video game sort of, but like, we're all awesome and we can beat a game in one try.
I mean, he's also like a blank slate to just be able to imprint your own wants and desires as a man.
Could have been John Everyman, and I would have been like, yeah, that tracks.
That could have worked out well too. Yeah, well, exactly. He's the
which works in a video game.
Yep.
He's not supposed to be like a smart guy. He keeps fucking up. He ruined the relationship with the missus or whatever. He's not smart, so that's why he keeps repeating this thing over. He even says it himself. Like, it took him. I tried to keep track of, like, I was trying to do a counter of, like, trying to see if I could total the total number of days that he had. What was the total thing? 250 or something like that?
200, yeah, to like 220. There's a bit in the movie where like he's trying to get into even like the compound at the end and like just wastes like 5 days just like smashing into the fence and dying over and over, because every time that he would do a new progression.
Oh shit, sorry.
I did like that every time like he would get comfortable and realize that he's made it ahead, and then get to a new boss essentially, and then have to grind that day again. And that
when he's surrounded and he shoots himself, and then the guards are like, "Oh, that's weird."
no, I really liked that scene where he was like, "That's weird." And Steve, you're right.
That was the only part that got an audible chuckle out of me. I was like, "Haha!"
Yes,
it was weird. That would be weird. Yeah,
Steve, you're right. You're right. I see all the things you hate about this movie. I see them and I understand them. And I think that this movie could have been good, like better, like good at all, really redeeming, if it was directed by a better director, better. I think that Joe Grillo was the wrong pick for this, especially if you're going to have him also narrate.
I mean, like in a weird way, it's like, and like he doesn't have as much weight behind his name to make it seem like you want to like put it on his giant shoulders.
I was like, where do I know this?
Later, what if he gets weight later, and then you feel differently about him because his name has more weight? And then you watch this movie again. Maybe. Then you're gonna like it just because he's got some weight.
I think this movie would have been better with Chris Pratt, like Steve was saying.
Okay, but obviously they can't get Chris Pratt for this movie, so it's like, what I'm saying is like there are so many people that are young, talented actors, which is like you look at Carpenter stuff, and he wasn't casting movie stars.
No,
he was casting people. Like he would just do interviews of people, and like it's like, did they interview so many people and they landed on this guy to be like, oh, he was also in the Marvel movies, so people are gonna want to see it.
Joe Grillo's name is in like he produced this movie. His son
money in there. Okay,
his real life son is his son in this.
And movie. I'm not trying to shit on people doing their jobs and stuff, because it is a job, you know. Like, and sometimes they treat it like one. And I feel like if anybody was trying to be remotely, I don't know, creative in terms of like every step of the way with this movie, that would probably be better. But like, that's what it feels like uncreative to me. It feels like a boring.
It felt like a sci-fi channel movie to me. It felt like in the same vein as like Sharknado.
No, because at least Sharknado is doing something that's like
yeah,
kooky
I know,
and weird.
But like
this movie
special
is
effects
like,
wise and like
but also
writing,
they have characters that are characters. This guy's not a character. He's like an unlikable asshole in the same light as Tom Cruise is and Bill Murray are in their movies.
Fair enough. What I'm saying
he doesn't ever not become an asshole. He's an asshole right until the very last minute.
No, he's not an asshole when he goes and realizes
he doesn't grow at all.
He does.
All of his growth is like, now I know
about
this scenario.
He has to go and he realizes that part of his growth as a person is to connect with his son, and he spends as much time he spends the whole act almost spending time with his son and then that's how he figures out that the world's ending, and he has to change his whole
but I never once during that was like, wow, he's really connecting with his son.
See, I was like, this is interesting character growth.
Through what? Them being like, it's pronounced Gallagher.
Yeah, really? Exactly. Okay. They were bonding over.
They bonded the whole scene with the video games, and then him sitting with his son at the end of time, multiple days in a row, and he says, every time he's quiet, he's asleep, and he's quiet when the world ends. And I thought that was like a little bit moving for how dumb this movie is. I know, Steve, I know you're firm in your stance.
It's your opinion. I'm not going to tell you you're wrong, but I am.
You have been.
I don't agree.
You've been telling me I'm
I did
actively
not know this
wrong
before coming in. I didn't
know.
I'm
just saying how I feel about it. Listen, I don't think that there was anything in this movie that made me feel like they were trying anything new. It was like they took a bunch of recycled ideas and stuffed them together. The character is unlikable. I don't think that there's any redeeming quality about him. Like a dad being like, "Oh, I gotta take care of my kid."
That is true. That is true.
It's not a heroic thing.
Yeah, he this kid didn't even know he was his dad. Is what I
also
got.
During that montage, oh my god, they literally take the time to shit on the movie Taken. The Taken series.
Oh yeah,
they decided to take a breath in the middle of the movie and be like, you know what movie sucks, dick? Taken. Now back to this movie, and I'm like, excuse me, Taken is not that bad.
I'm pretty sure that was
way better than this.
That was an inside joke. That was them having fun.
Oh, you know what? Was it also an inside joke when they made him say, "I can do this all day," a la Captain American man.
Captain American man.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
if I was Mark Griffin or whatever the fuck his name is.
Oh God, man, where's the love for Frank?
Frank
Grillo. I'm sorry. I feel like one day I'm gonna open my door and Frank Grillo will be at my door and he'll be like, "I heard what you said about my movie."
we should have him on as a guest when we're famous and never tell him about us ripping this movie.
I don't think that he's a bad actor. I think that this is a bad movie and he's in it, and it's unfortunate that he's right in the headlights of like the car that's hitting me while I'm watching this movie.
So I watched this movie I think 3 times. I watched it to watch it, then I watched it and took notes, and then I watched it last night to refresh again. And one thing I noticed on the second watch, which it wasn't anything major, but like, so at the very beginning when Mr. Good Morning or whatever comes to his place and the cell phones, there's a cell phone ringing and it's her cell phone. It says Brett, and he makes sure it doesn't fall. And I was like, oh, she was on with the bad guys from the get-go kind of thing, like a little foreshadowing or whatever. You guys are not impressed though.
No, that's good. I wouldn't have noticed that because I only watched it once, but it did catch me off guard that she was part of the whole shtick. But we do find out later in the movie that the girl that he sleeps with that's there in the bed every morning never gets injured. She's like gone when he wakes up, because there's that one scene where he gets killed over and over where the guy's just like wailing on him. Like it's clearly just like a sack of feathers.
Yeah.
And wouldn't it have been more interesting if they like found her later in the movie and he had to track her down, and there was a whole story where he's tracking her, and then they have like a weird intimate connection that is
But that's not what this movie is, Steve.
I know, but
that's the whole crux of my explanation of what this thing is.
Is that you think that it's doing a good job at what it set out to do, which was just to get old men to watch it. That's
get
weird.
Old men riled up and yell about
holy hell, Michelle Yeoh
think they know everything about
Gibson
video games. I watched that video game boss level, and
I can't wait to hear.
I have to go to the washroom. I'll be right back. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. While you're gone, I'm just going to talk about the parts of this movie I liked. So,
ooh, bow chicka wow wow.
Nope.
I can't.
You ruined it.
We're not going to hear the P this time.
Dang.
I can't wait to hear what the experience you had with you and your dad after watching this movie.
I may or may not actually do that. I don't know. So he was like, "Can you bring Eternals?" And I was like, "Yes, but I don't want to sit through that movie again." Because the Eternals was fine to watch once. It fits very nicely into the whole MCU. It opens up new MCU pathways, but there's certain movies in the MCU you only need to watch once. And I am gonna have to rewatch that movie at some point because of my grand watch through of the MCU. I'm up to Black Panther.
I can't wait.
So,
I just did the Infinity Saga a few weeks ago.
Which movies did you watch?
All of them.
Like right from Iron Man 1?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So in 2021 I had intended to finish and catch up, and I got to I got to Age of Ultron on my own, and Madison was like, "I want to watch those with you."
Yeah.
But we only watched like one movie together a week.
Yeah.
So I was stuck on. We watched a few together, and then I was stuck on Thor Ragnarok for a long time because she didn't want to watch it with me really, and I didn't feel like rewatching that one because I had already seen it 3 times because I love that movie, but you got to be in the mood for it. And then I finally watched it, and now I'm waiting for her to watch Black Panther with me, which I've only seen once, and I'm actually excited to rewatch because I didn't like it when I saw it in theaters, but I feel like that's going to be one that I rewatch now. And I'm like, yeah, this movie rocks way harder.
Yeah, there's also a couple other connecting things too, right? Like
knowing all that you know after these MCU movies, they make them better. You know, when I saw Black Panther and that was just the newest one, I was like, what's gonna happen next? This movie was kind of bad. But now I'm gonna be like, whoa, look at all these cool things.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think it was bad, but I did think that it was just another Marvel movie. Like the level of hype that movie received when it first came out, and I understand like cultural implications
culturally.
And like
but
obviously that's amazing.
It's very long, and the final battle is just 2 Black Panthers fighting each other in a giant CGI mess.
But I mean, it is like at the end of the day, it's like exactly like every other Marvel movie.
Oh shit!
Yes, that's true. Except for No Way Home, because No Way Home fucking ruled. Even though I watched a shitty cam.
I can't wait to see the real thing.
Me too. Comes out in March. I'm gonna rewatch that. That is what I'm taking down to my dad's. There's a better cam out now. I'm taking that down to my dad's to watch with him. That I will report back.
Do you guys mind if I talk about editing a little bit?
Yeah, let's hear your nerd rant about editing.
Well, it's more so just like like I'm not going to give you a lecture on what is good editing and what is bad editing, but I do think particularly in a movie like this.
You're a film school student, and I sometimes forget that while we're talking about these movies. And
I know, but that doesn't make my opinion more valid than yours.
It does a little bit when I almost feel like I should hate this movie from a film student's point of view.
But I'm not hating on it from a film student's point of view. I'm hating on it because I hated it. And like, here are the reasons why. It's not like I'm not being like, this movie sucked because it wasn't directed by Quentin Tarantino, a little filmmaker you might be familiar with.
This director thought he was Tarantino. I almost think that. I think that
I think the writer was writing it to be a Tarantino. That's what it really felt like, was that this guy he probably wanted all those assassins to have very interesting, unique characteristics, and it really just ended up boiling down to,
this guy is black and also German and twins, and this guy is small midget man.
Exactly. And that's something that like that movie, what was it, Smoking Aces?
Yeah.
The movie with all the bounty
That
hunters,
movie's like that, right? Yeah.
and it accomplishes to a degree that where it's like the whole movie is just about all of these different bounty hunters, and that's interesting. That's an interesting sort of ensemble cast potential, but at the end of the day, like it's really hard to do that with something that's not already established, right? But the editing in this movie was all over the goddamn map, and like because there are so many loop montages, sometimes they're going in between and they're like overlapping, which is like, you know, a little bit needlessly confusing. Like I don't want to have to pay attention to what loop you're on. If you just show you dying a bunch, I'll know you're in a loop. I don't need to know what number it is. That being said, I do think that like the video game premise is very clear within the writing and did not need to be doubled down upon with like the text that they would use on screen.
The thing at the very beginning made me nervous. Because it was like,
because it was
choose
bad.
your character, and I was like, oh no. But then they didn't do any more of that, and I perked up a bit, you know, in retrospect. It was when they go into the sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but when they go into the arcade a bunch, and it's like, oh, and the loosely veiled symbology.
Yeah. So this movie could have been edited differently, and it would have, you know, supremely changed the structure and the narrative. The narrative could, within this movie specifically, you could narrate it like several other different ways, and it would completely change the story, and it would completely change what you're exposed to throughout the movie at different points, which make you leap to conclusions about this character that you otherwise wouldn't be leaping to early enough or late enough, or like you could, there is a spot that you want those things to be in, and it felt like they were all out of order, where I was like, oh, I already know about this guy. Oh, I also, okay, that was implied by that thing. You should have showed that first, and it would have been more surprising to show this thing next. I think that it's an example of the other two movies where we talked about like they start in the loop. I understand now the value of them not starting in the loop. It's easier to tell a succinct story and get you to a point where the story really starts to take off. Whereas it like they're trying to like make it, the story starts here, but let me tell you a little bit about yesterday. And we're like, oh, nobody cares about that. In The Edge of Tomorrow, a movie we spoke about last week, there is a very good moment where it's revealed that he's actually lived potentially hundreds of loops more than you realize he has when he gets to this specific point. And it's realized through his interactions with Emily Blunt's character, still very much like keeping them both in perspective-based roles. And you figure out within that scene that he's actually seen her die here like 100 times or whatever. And it's good because it's a reveal. It's something that you're learning about this character now. You now know a little bit more about him based on this moment. Whereas this guy in this movie, I never feel like I learned anything new about him. I know he had a kid at the beginning of the movie that he wants to see the kid. I know that his wife works as the scientist.
And he's drunk and horny.
That's all. That's all, folks. Like there's no growth to his character via moments in the story that like change. It's all just stuff that's like, yeah, we would have assumed you liked your kid. Like you didn't have to show us you being a pleasant person to be around for us to be like, oh, he loves his kid and takes him to the
Can I say one thing about this movie that was undeniably good?
Hit me.
They put some money down for that soundtrack.
No, they didn't. They didn't put a lot of money down.
I like the soundtrack.
The soundtrack in this movie was fucking dope as shit, and they
only played enough music for you to feel like this is when a montage should start, and then it ends, and you're like, oh, you're not going to play the whole song.
Regardless of that, though, the song choices used in this movie were surprising to me because you don't hear these songs that often.
Are they cheaper to purchase?
It could be, but I thought that I was that first one that they used. Fuck, I can't remember the name of it, but
I think it's like Foreplay or something.
Yeah, it's been a long time. It's Foreplay and blah 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 by the blah 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 song. No, at Foreplay and Good.
Long Time or Good.
Yeah, it's a great song. You know, as I said that, I'm like, maybe they do use this song a lot in movies, so that I just thought that the songs that they used.
Time has come today. Ding, diddling, ding, ding, diddling. They play that, and I was like, oh, they're gonna play this.
Boston. It's Foreplay and Long Time by Boston.
The Milk Boy.
Boston rules.
The Paper Boy. The news on TV.
Yeah, you know, like, you're right.
I like that that for a little while he just tried to get to the bar so he could get drunk, and that the drinks are his reward.
Yeah.
He's like, I made it. I can drink all this fucking.
I really like
booze.
the alcohol. Yeah, Alcoholics Unanimous, more like, and then he takes a giant slam of the bottle. That was pretty funny.
I was conscious not to emulate that portion of his character tonight.
Thank you.
Also,
I don't know what happened last week, but you went from 0 to 100 like in a minute.
It's also a crying shame that they have Ken Jeong and they don't utilize him at all. Like, he's just there, and he's like, "Oh, you want some booze? Okay, here you go, idiot."
That was an actual cameo. He was just a cameo character in that, and I think the dude at the bar with him.
I think that they're all friends through the Ruffalos or whatever.
Oh, okay.
They're not the
Ruffalos. Dude at the bar, I recognized
the Russo bros. Yeah,
I recognized the other dude at the bar, and I don't know where I know him from, but I recognized him.
The guy who's like the tech guy.
Yeah, the annoying nerd character.
Yeah.
I don't know what I know him from.
He's in a few things, but
I
feel like he's like mostly TV, but I don't know. I don't know his name.
Maybe it is.
But yeah, he's definitely in stuff.
Maybe it's a Russo brothers connection thing.
Yeah, imagine this was all just like the Russo brothers were like, we have this script, but we don't want it, and they just threw it in like a corner, and then all these people were just standing there, like Ken Jeong and Frank Grillo, and they're like, let's pick it up, let's see what it's about, and they like somehow made it.
There's only four. Up till now, there's only 4 time loop movies. Maybe we just make another one.
Yeah,
guys, I'm so excited for next week because Palm Springs is better than all 3 of these movies.
Imagine this movie, but Ken Jeong was the main character, and he was getting better.
Or if Ken Jeong was his sidekick, and he was actually doing all the stuff for Joe Grillo, a la Big Trouble in Little China.
Can we Muppetize this movie?
Yeah, fuck it.
Muppets.
And let's take it home, because we've been talking about this movie for 1 hour and 20 minutes.
The narration is really bad as well.
I brought that up. The narration and his
then I'll
voice.
say the fact that they decided to explain the Indiana Jones fight without
that was
ever
funny.
actually paying it off it was offensive to me.
I liked it. I also liked it because she was doing the thing, and he was like, and they kind of did pay it off because he does unload 2 guns at her in one of the loops, and she just bypasses it, which is stupid.
Yeah, no, I mean,
you can't fucking bypass 2 guns being pointed at you and unloaded. But I thought that was a fun scene. I think there's another version of this movie that's made by a competent director that is a celebration of action movies. And this has shades of it, and it falls flat every time they try to do it. I thought that the Hitler gun thing was the most Tarantino attempt at anything. Felt very hackneyed, hacked into a movie.
It was bad, yeah.
Tarantino-esque moment that, you're right, had potential, but he's like, this is AH on it, and she's like, Adolf Hitler, that gun's worth a lot of money, and he's like, oh, I'll shoot you. This is for the Jews. Like, it was ham-fisted. That's the kind of thing in this movie I didn't like. But as a whole, you show this to a fucking 50-year-old man with no context and no who just
like, I'm just glad to see Mel's back in
Mel
the business.
Gibson.
Would you guys watch a movie like that? Like that character you just did?
What, an old man?
I feel like I would watch. I don't know. I wonder
it's a movie about a man who's
obsessed
with...
Like if the whole script is written with the dude talking like,
yeah,
or it's like an old man is writing a script where he's with all the old men. Oh, what they did, Red
it's
is
called
like
The
that.
Expendables, I think, and I saw a good analysis of The Expendables where I remember when the trailers for The Expendables came out, and this, I think it was a Red Letter Media talking about it, and everybody was like, yeah, this movie's gonna rock, we're gonna see all our favorites from the fucking 80s, and then it came out and it was kind of a fart in the wind. And it was
That's the
poorly
worst place to
written.
be a fart, I'll tell you.
It's true. It just dissipates. You want that to be poignant and potent.
Or
Sting
you want to be in a
nostrils.
fridge where all the air is like condensed so
Fridge.
other people can't smell it.
I'm pissed off about the Expendables specifically because I had a friend who wanted to go to the movies, and I was like, "Let's go see Scott Pilgrim," because it would have been my second time.
Really good movie.
And I
That's
was
a
like,
great movie.
"Yeah," I was like, "Let's go see Scott Pilgrim. It's very good." And he's like, "I hate that Michael Cera. Let's go see the Expendables." And I was like, "No, the Expendables is just going to be a bunch of shooting at each other and no."
It's gonna be a bunch of old flesh
And it's
flapping
gonna be, like,
around underneath a
different
t-shirt
old
that's
characters
too
coming from
small to hold
around-
it all.
coming from around corners to reveal they're in the movie for one line, and that's what it was. It was just they had one group of Expendables and then other old guys coming from around corners to reveal they were in the movie for one line. And Scott Pilgrim
Hello,
is
it's
a
me, John
beautifully made.
Malkovich. I'm
That's
here
how
to
you-
be a villain for a moment.
That's how you make a video game movie about video games properly.
There you
You
go.
let Edgar Wright. If Edgar Wright directed this movie, it'd be a fucking cult classic. It'd be a masterpiece.
Yeah, there's a reason Edgar Wright didn't. It's because of a pile of shit.
I think the script is bad. You know, I think the script is bad for this movie. I thought the dialogue in this movie was dog shit. But
Yeah,
the
I don't
things
know. I think that
pointed
like
out-
if they started the movie and like it was like him talking to that dental hygienist, and then she left, and then it was like the phone ringing, and he picks up the phone, and he's like, "Hello," and then it's like then it just like cuts to like him like in a car chase or whatever, and then he dies, and then it's like it goes through that fucking phone call again. I don't know. The phone call should have been the beginning of the movie when she tells him what the fuck's going on. You know?
Right. I found the nerd dude is in he's on the show The Neighborhood, which is like a white guy moves to a black neighborhood or something. With Cedric
I've never seen
Entertainer.
it.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. But he was I think he was a comedian because he did episodes of Drunk History, and he plays a
Nice.
character on the television show Lethal Weapon, and also he was a character on a show called Great News, which was a comedy. And that's probably where I know him from, because Great News.
I think
was actually-
yeah, I think I've seen that
Great
one.
News was actually a pretty good sitcom that ended too soon.
Um,
Yeah. I've said
well-
everything I want to say about this movie.
Yeah, I think I've said everything that I want to say as well, but even his outfit that he gets after looping so much, he should be wearing like crazy like space armor or some shit. Like when he does it that many times instead of like that scarf. I'm like, why does he have the scarf? What is that?
I think
Does he ever use it?
that from Roy too.
Yeah, he just gets the scarf to emulate being Roy too.
I know, but it's like he got a video game costume, but he played so many other times that he could have found other costumes that are better, like a full Bond suit or.
I don't know. I like the jacket. It's pretty dope. I think.
I thought his character design was fine to be John Everyman, and I think that was the point. And I think that was
Yeah, he looked
the
like
point of
the
casting.
generic photographer from the first Dead Rising game.
I think that's I think that was a choice.
My name's Frank Grillo.
Is
got
that
it.
character's name Frank Grillo in Dead Rising?
Yeah, of course. Where do you think that they got the
What?
name for this bot that they put on the screen for us?
It's
You're
something
joking.
like we are, but it's something like Frank Grillo.
It's Frank something. Yeah, it's pretty close. Yeah.
Those games are fun, but I've seen the completionist complete Dead Rising, the first one, and I don't know why you would ever go through that.
That's
I
like a
heard,
Dead Souls.
Mel
thing.
dislocated Frank's jaw. But
Like
Frank
it
was
with
a
a punch,
trooper,
I
and
guess?
he's like, keep going, keep filming.
Keep dislocating it. I like it.
Well, I
It
was
wasn't during
listening to-
shooting. It was
I was
later.
listening to the
that
It's
day.
Always Sunny in Philadelphia podcast, and they were talking about how it's a very good podcast, by the way. It's very funny.
I
They
was gonna
hardly
say
talk
that's
about
probably a great pod.
they go episode by episode, but they hardly talk about the episode. They just talk. So it's just you're listening to Rob McElhenney, Glenn Howerton, and Charlie Day.
Is that how you say that?
McElhenney? Yeah. Last year was when I learned how you say that. I was saying I can't even do it the old way. Anyway,
They're sponsoring us, right?
yes, they talk about how in movies and television, if you're an actor and something goes wrong and you break your, like Jackie Chan movies where he gets all fucked and they keep it in, it's because if you don't use that cut and you've injured yourself, what's the point? And that's a, you know, like that's a good point here where
Imagine that was the case for literally every movie, and like those ones where people get like accidentally ripped in half and like decapitated on set, and they're like, we gotta use it. What's it for? What are we doing this for, people?
The Thing, John Carpenter presents The Thing, that all happened for real. So Alien and Aliens.
They're like,
Alien
well, we were
3
making
was a
movie
remake
about
of
polar
Alien.
bear dogs, but we gotta film this.
What if he didn't remember he was in a loop? Do you think that
he'd
would
probably get killed every morning?
Yeah, it would suck.
Because I assume
sorry, not this movie. What if we made a movie where he didn't remember he was in a loop?
Okay, but like listen to this for a second. Like, so imagine that there's a version of this movie where it's him opening his eyes and there's a guy stabbing him, and then you immediately loop again, like right away, and then you go through like the first like 10 loops where he just keeps getting killed by this guy over and over again within like a 5 minute. It's like a 5 minute long fight scene where it just gets slightly longer every time, and you shoot it from different angles. Right. Like, wouldn't that be an interesting way to like play around with this, like the concept of you being assassinated in your sleep?
You just happen to get out of the way one of the times.
Well, you know it's coming. Like, you get stabbed in the head like 4 times or whatever, then you like, and it goes down, and then you're just like, I punch him, I guess, and then what? And then you just keep learning slowly.
What if he doesn't have any memory retention at all?
Yeah. Then you just get stabbed in the head every time. If your
first reaction, not for this, not where someone's getting killed immediately from the beginning. Like a different movie altogether. I don't know what the movie is yet, but like it's just with these. So what is this? This is 3 movies now. So Groundhog's Day left it very open as to what was going on. Some sort of, you know, greater power or something kind of is kind of the ambiance that came.
The power of the groundhog. We all are familiar.
Exactly. Phil, I believe it was. Yeah. Or was it Bill? Was it Phil?
Poxitani Phil or whatever.
Yeah. Remember, you have the same name.
Exactly. Yeah. Edge was the alien's blood. This is a hadron collider machine.
Like a time travel hadron collider thing. And the next one, who knows? Who knows? You guys haven't seen it. It's going to blow your mind. Or is it? Maybe you're going to hate it. I don't care.
That's right. Has Steve not seen it yet?
Wait, I thought you were talking about this movie still. No. What are you talking about?
Palm Springs.
Oh no, I haven't seen Palm Springs. Okay. I haven't seen a trailer for it or anything. Same as this movie.
Go into Palm Springs blind. I think you're gonna like the movie because it's like a well-made.
I never go into a movie expecting to hate it.
Okay, well that's fair, and I think that we've done every movie we've talked about justice. Since Steve's joined the show, this is the worst movie we've done. I don't think this is the worst movie we've done overall though, because.
I can't think of another movie that I would rather watch less than this movie again.
I don't know if I would sit through a Buster Keaton movie again, and that
I would watch The General again.
Worst, but that was a different.
Before I watch this again,
a whole different thing. That was let's test the limits on what we should do on our birthday episode, and we learned a very important lesson: don't drink all day and then try to do a podcast.
That's a great lesson.
Were you drunk in that episode?
No, I was method acting. I was channeling Buster.
Right. And you learned not to method act for this character. Okay. Can we take it home? I don't want to talk about.
Yes, sorry. Yeah, we'll take it home.
Can I ask a quick little question?
Of course.
As long as it's quick and little.
Okay. You know that one episode of Seinfeld where the intro had like some ladies going ooh ah, or whatever.
Can we use their thing? Episodes have a different intro. Yeah.
Can we use that for this?
No, because it still has doom,
yeah. Doom. Look, Kaylin, we'll find something good. Don't worry. You don't need to be like looking up your faves to be like, can we just rip this from Seinfeld? Or?
No, it's gonna work out. I've got some feelers out. If they don't get back to me soon, then we're just gonna go with.
Well, I have trying to search
many songs selected that I could use.
We're gonna talk about this in our next production meeting.
Yeah, this is a meeting. Not at the
end of the show, and I'm trying to go do something else.
Oh God, you don't want to talk to us forever? You're worse than the movie.
Is this gonna be forever?
You were like a shittier version.
You're like Taken 3.
I'm like Taken 4, which hasn't come out yet, but I'm sure it's gonna be like the 10-year anniversary of Taken 3. It'll be a reboot. Taken's son.
All right, sorry. Let's just go for final thoughts. I think I'll go with Kaylin again first, as I did for the
short and sweet
initial thoughts. Yeah.
I was not expecting this clash of minds between my two co-hosts here. I enjoyed actually being a fly on the wall and watching you guys converse back and forth. It was actually very enjoyable. And like I said before, you both are speaking truths for sure. Definitely your opinion, perspectives, and then just literally what the movie kind of encompasses. I can definitely be a simple man from time to time, and there's times where you just don't want to kind of think or whatever. Chuck on something just to kind of occupy some movement and sound in your life. Man, this is sounding
morose. If there's anything that I love doing most, it's occupying a part of my vision with movement and sound.
I'm being brave. No, it's like, what is it? He's being encouraged.
Sometimes I just make myself a cup of peppermint tea, sit down, and occupy vision and sound for hours.
Sounds like a good
peppermint makes me sneeze.
Oh, okay. Well,
can I have a different tea? Can I have some orange poke?
Pico.
Orange pico?
Yep.
Orange poke. That's like you had a weird babysitter once in your kid. Let's play orange poke. Uh-oh.
This is a fun little movie though that uses the gimmick of repeating the same day over, as I think initiated from Groundhog Day. Is that fair to say? Was that the first movie to do it?
I would have to take a deep dive. There's probably something that does something.
There's probably some there's probably like a Twilight Zone episode.
Yeah, or there's some
shit,
70s movie.
Touche.
But Cam, who is like a movie expert who we mentioned before on the show, he only mentioned that Damon Wayans or Marlon Wayans movie, and that's like and you said there's a Christmas movie that might do it too, and that might be literally it. There might be 6 time loop movies.
And we picked 2 good ones and one that Jason defends for some reason, and I would throw in a garbage can.
It's worth a watch. I think everyone. It's not.
I think specifically me and Steve are the audience for this because Steve hated it so vehemently and I didn't hate it so vehemently.
Right. Sorry, I'm still hosting here. Jason, are you done with your final thoughts?
I didn't say anything.
I thought I was giving my final thoughts.
I know, but Jason started talking during yours, so I figured that he was done his as well now. Kaylin, continue.
I enjoyed this movie, that I personally found nothing wrong with it.
Nothing? Wait, hold on. You said nothing.
Okay, sorry. I did make a few notes of a few things wrong with it, but okay. I'll put it like this. I'm glad it came out on streaming. It was the perfect way to watch this movie. I wouldn't have gone out of my way to see it, but it was worth a watch. That it was something to pick from, and it now is in the ether of our current reality. And on that note, I'll give it a what's the easiest level? What is novice? Is novice what the easiest level on a game?
Yeah, or beginner.
Beginner, easy mode.
Yeah, but I want to sound fancy right now.
Novice.
I would say beginner or novice.
Is novice more fancy than beginner?
I don't know.
Not to some people. To some people, it's more novice than beginner.
It kind of goes like novice, beginner, easy, I would say.
Okay, well, I'll give this movie a novice out of expert.
Pretty good.
Hell mode.
I guess that it's me now. Time to say.
Yes, Jason, take us to a place where you can sit right in between hating and liking this movie at the same time somehow.
I knew so what happened this afternoon is I turned this movie on and liked it immediately. I'm gonna let the cat out of the bag. I liked this movie up until something happened. I'm easily swayed. This is why I don't look at the tomato meter. This is why I don't look at Metacritic. This is while I'm watching a movie or until I come up with my final rating. But what happened this afternoon was the movie madness popped up, and I saw Ryan put a paragraph of talking shit. And he said specifically, could we have the technology from this movie to go back and erase this movie from our minds? And I saw that and kept watching the movie and started to hate it. And then I knew that you guys were
Ryan did it.
You guys were all in the
You're
chat
telling me that I
too.
would like this movie if Ryan wasn't sitting
all
next to me while I watched it?
You guys were all sitting in the chat talking shit, as I would find out after when I went. I blocked it all out. I didn't read anymore after that one sentence. And then I had it in my head like, oh, well, I've been swayed because now I'm watching this being like, that's dumb. This is stupid. That's dumb. And I was like, I'm going to go into this podcast tonight playing full on devil's advocate. But I can't because I know Kalen likes this movie because he keeps saying, can't wait for you guys to see this. It's a weird one. I just want you guys to see it. And I was like, that means, he likes it. Doesn't vehemently despise the core. So I wanted to come into this podcast in the middle. And what I managed to do with that is
Kalen, he's saying he hates the movie without actually saying it.
No, I'm not.
He's trying to be
because then what happened was I started to enjoy myself, realizing that this movie is in fact a made-for-TV movie, a VOD straight to DVD movie, a straight to streaming service movie. It's all of these things that you can find enjoyment from if you're the target audience. And Kalen, I know that you like to smoke of the marijuana and just put things on TV. Behind you, if you'll notice, you have hundreds of movies. Hundreds. Your gimmick has always kind of
they're not all keepers or whatever.
I know, I get that. But I know that you like these kinds of movies to just put on and get baked and maybe have some friends over and watch movies and just, you've always been like that, right? So I didn't want to come in here and shit all over the movie, and I found things to like about the movie. And that's why I wanted to be the sort of guy in the middle as my review, because I was able to find things that were redeeming qualities for this movie. I did like some of the humor. I did like the special effects for what they were. If you put this movie in its box,
he did look pretty bad when they had the mannequin go into the
I
bus.
liked that though. I liked those scenes where the mannequin was flying. It was like this level of comedy. It was funny, yeah. It's played for a laugh because it looks so ridiculous. It's like when a guy's like, "Oh no, I'm gonna fall off a building," and then it's clearly like a really bad, like not even mannequin, just like a pillow, body pillow shaped like a person. Like it played as a laugh for me, and I wasn't even just laughing at it. I was like, I think there was some stuff going on in this movie that was intentional, and it's unfortunate that the movie as a whole is such a miss. But this movie is not for us, I don't think, or it's not for me, and it's not for Steve, and it's for somebody like you who puts a movie on to occupy movement and sound, or somebody who's old, like a dad who's like, I'm gonna watch this action movie because I watch action movies. And I think that's who it's for, and that's why I can be.
You don't think this is for little kids?
Definitely not for little kids. Maybe teenagers. Maybe like.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, yeah,
you could show this to an 8-year-old and they would not. They would be like, whatever. This is nothing.
Well, it's so innocuous. There's no real gore. There's no real sex. There's a little bit of swearing. You could show this to a 15-year-old.
Yeah, the part where he gets his head cut off like 20 times in a row, and it's like a cartoon head. That was actually
pretty brutal and pretty.
It looked okay.
It wasn't a practical effect. Well, I think the head sliding was practical, but when they show the neck part, that was definitely CGI.
That was fine. Yeah, it didn't look terrible.
It didn't look terrible. There, Steve said one good thing about this movie. One passable.
He liked the part when he shot himself, and the guards were like, "Oh, that's weird."
That was weird. That was a good.
That was funny. That's a funny reaction, and it was probably again one of those things where they filmed Will Sasso say like 10 things, and like, this is the funniest one, right? This is the funniest one,
and I liked Will Sasso's. Like, even though he was just like hired goon, I did think that he went into this movie and was like, I don't get to full on act in a lot of things. I'm going to make this character something that people remember about this movie.
Yeah.
And they're going to remember when I get a sword in the head and turn into an SNL skit.
I laughed out loud at that, and I don't care. So
he was like doing like the cross eyes, and he's like, he was basically doing a Mad TV thing. Like,
So So
I had one little thing.
I'm just gonna finish because I've already talked about it all, but I gave it a 2.4 out of 5, and I think that I felt bad about giving it such a low rating, but I think that's like dude, this fucking movie on Metacritic has like a 71
Out
on
of
like
what?
out of 100 on like Rotten Tomatoes. It's in the
That's why you don't trust
high
anybody's
60s and
opinion
low
but your own,
70s.
fellas.
I know, but I'm saying that like that's what people look at, and that's what people use as their barometer. Which I know.
But what are the people voting? What are their scores?
Well, who knows? That's what I'm saying.
You can also look at something that has a 21 on Metacritic and play it and think it's one of the greatest things.
I know, but my point is like I usually, when I do my out of 5 rating, I'm usually pretty spot on or I'm wildly off because I either loved a movie or hated a movie. And this
for
movie,
Metacritic, you're like, I'm the perfect human. Every score I give is the same as Metacritic.
Metacritic and Rotten Tomatoes.
I only check out.
You said 3.1,
There's a lot
right?
more to say. There's a lot more to say about what I'm talking about. I'm just broadly saying that a lot of times I hit pretty close to what the people like, and that's why I think that my rating of this movie being lower than what the people like is pretty indicative of me still not really liking this movie, but still giving it a fair shake. Because Steve, I feel like you're going to give it like a negative. I know you do a more abstract.
I would never give a negative score. You can't
do a more abstract score. You're going to be like,
I could give it a negative score because I do feel like it took something from me that I'll never get back. So maybe I could take something from it. I would rather cut my own
foot off and fuck my ass with my dead foot than watch this movie ever again. And that's my.
What about the Quentin?
That is my rating. That's exactly what my rating was going to be. Shit. I have to rewrite my rating now.
Steak, but it's actually his tongue.
Cool writing, bro. You burned your inside of your mouth because you got shot in the face. Good Lord.
I did like that too.
No, I don't like the character. So when that line came out, I was like, yeah, that sounds like some stupid bullshit this idiot would say. He's so stupid. It took him 120 loops to read the book.
You make me feel bad about myself when I am trying to do this, and then you.
Well, listen, I'm not.
And I say this is my opinion, and then you say no, you were wrong. This is the way that it is because I say it. That's all I'm saying. I wanted to be the guy in the middle on this, and you win or whatever.
I would rather you get on the other side than try and come over here now after that. After that display.
I don't hate this movie, and my 2.4 out of 5 displays that.
You originally said 3.1 though, right?
I was at a 3.1 before the ending.
So 62. What'd you say? Tomatoes was 71.
Yeah,
that's pretty close.
I think it's Rotten Tomatoes is a 71, and Metacritic was like a 68 or something.
All right, I guess that's me then. Do I get to talk now about how much I love this movie?
IMDb rates it a 6.8, Rotten Tomatoes 74, Metacritic 56. 76% of people like this film. And if you look at Metacritic, it's 56. You gotta look at how many people actually rated it to really get an idea.
1, 2, 3. No, 4.
Let's see who gave it. I had to get one. Gave it a 10. So.
All right, so the movie.
No Way Home has a 71 Metascore. Okay,
No Way Home has the same score as this movie. Is what you just told me.
Never looking at that again.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
No. This was Metacritic.
Did you say I hated it? Gave it a 10.
Yeah. Username.
All right, guys. We're a little off topic.
I know.
Let's get back on track.
How are we talking for 2 hours about this movie?
Well, I've been trying to talk about mine, but you guys, you're not easy to rein in sometimes. I start talking and then you talk over me.
You do that to me too, Steve.
Yeah, well, you know what? I'm going to do it again right now. All right, folks. We're moving into the final
Everybody
thoughts.
Talk at the same
Kalen
time.
is giving his
everybody
final
that
thoughts.
watches podcasts, it's their favorite thing when everybody talks over one another.
Does that mean I have to talk right now too?
Yeah.
What about right now?
Everybody has to say words at the same time, and when they're talking, you can listen to them talk at the same time.
At the same time.
I refuse to talk while you talk. All right. So the movie Boss Level. Yes, Boss Level. I wrote down Boss Battle. Yeah. They probably named the movie like 4 minutes before they put the posters into print. They're like, I don't know, Boss Level. Take that one. Just go. We own all 3 titles. That's how I feel like a lot of the decisions of this movie were made.
Do you feel like Jason's background?
Yeah, I had a bit similar to Jason's, that he did the Boss Baby thing, and I was like, what if I just talk about Boss Baby for the first 15 minutes, but try really hard to make it seem like I'm still talking about the other movie? So I was gonna try and really dope. Try and find connections. Jason, though, after he did his, I was like, I can't do mine now. Doesn't make sense.
I thought it'd be funnier just to be like, I watched the wrong movie and just was confused.
I know. I was going to do the same thing, but over a very extended period of time, where I was going to try and connect things that didn't actually need connecting.
If it makes you guys feel better, I fell for it.
Well, that's why we do it, Kaylin. That's why we do practical jokes. We got to fool somebody. I hated this movie. It's not good. The opening is I've seen more interesting beer commercials, I guess, where they do the same sort of thing except less gore. Guao Yin was cool. They did not succeed in making a character that I care about or connect to or am able to imprint myself upon, even though it seems like that's what they were going for. He has no charisma. He would have been better suited to be played by anybody that could be anything other than he's not charming. He doesn't have any charm. He's boring. All the female characters in this movie are basically just literal vassals for him to reflect on for a second, to be like, that's all I needed was a woman's touch, and then she disappears for the rest of the movie. There's no constant female character that is there other than his angelic wife, who's being haloed by science equipment, being like, I'm the best thing that ever happened to you. But he doesn't even admit that. If he admitted that she was the best thing that ever happened to him at some point in the movie, then I would maybe feel some sort of remorse or connection to this character. But he doesn't. Nothing. He's just like, I can't let my kid die. But he doesn't say why. He doesn't say, I always remember that time when we went rock climbing together. Even that would have been something.
That way you can fill in whatever you whenever you let your kid down.
I don't have children. I can't do it. I need it to be in the movie. Anyway, I'm not going to talk too much about anything else because I think I've kind of got it off my chest. I really don't like the middle fingers they gave to other movies. I think it's fine to give a middle finger to another movie, in the Deadpool, where he literally is making jokes to other companies that they could sue for, where it's these are heavy hitting jokes, whereas these ones are he talks shit about Taken, he talks shit about Indiana Jones, he talks shit about Captain America, and they're all in debt. I'm already sitting here hating the movie, and I'm like, what? Excuse me? And I get up and I point at my TV and I tell the TV to stop, but it keeps going. It keeps going and it won't stop, and it goes on for 90 minutes. And I was like, it's only been 90 minutes at the end. I thought that it was 2 a.m. that I was locked up. Anyway, I didn't like the movie. I cannot recommend it. I'm not gonna. I'll rate it I'm going to maybe get my money back for buying it from Xbox out of 10. And all of them are filled in. So 10 out of 10. Well, great movie.
We've done it again. We pulled a movie apart that probably didn't deserve it, but that's what we got to do if we're going to do a month of movies where there's only.
Guan Yin was cool. I liked Guan Yin.
I think next week is going to be, we're all going to be more on the same page. If
I'm still going to be high.
That's okay.
I'm going to be higher than I was this time even.
Get high and watch Palm Springs too. I'm glad it's a movie I did want to I don't rewatch a lot of movies, but I am excited to rewatch this one because it has some cool stuff in it.
I forget the specifics. Yes, I am excited to watch it again. I only watched it that one time as well.
I've never seen it, so I was excited to watch this one too, though. So
Yeah,
Damn
I'm
it.
more
Sometimes that
excited to
happens.
watch this than I was Edge of Tomorrow, actually, because Edge of Tomorrow, I saw the runtime and I wasn't interested when it came out. Like, in that kind of will deter you. And this one I had no idea. And in my head, it was going to be some video game thing. And then it turned into just like a weird, like 80s action movie.
It's a good movie. It's an enjoyable movie. I can
Yeah.
recommend that.
Yeah, I would recommend Edge of Tomorrow, especially for people that love hard sci-fi. And especially, I know I compared it a lot to the Tomorrow War because they're very similar feeling.
Why are you
movies.
still talking about
the
tomorrow?
Only because
War-
they say tomorrow.
But the Tomorrow War they have the same vibe to me. They have the same
They have the
feel.
same like color palette.
tomorrow.
It's like how Chrono Trigger is like about time travel and Chrono Cross is about interdimensional travel. So this is
All
Both
right.
of those say travel.
I gotta cut you off because we're at the end of the episode.
okay.
We've all said our piece.
PP.
We all can agree that we need to do better for each other. We got to make sure that no one's hurting out there.
Yeah.
Because if you place this into somebody's lap and they're not feeling great, it's going to make the day much worse. Much worse.
I would recommend this movie to people that are going.
I would never recommend this to someone I know.
I would recommend this to somebody that isn't going to hate this movie.
I don't know that.
I think. Well, your dad might like it because it's a dad.
I don't
movie.
think he would.
No.
I think he'd say like, "There's no story. I don't care about this man."
My dad likes dumb movies sometimes. Like my dad loves every Liam Neeson movie, and I feel like my dad might even be like,
Was
I don't-
Liam
why would you
Neeson
show
Dark
me
Man?
this? Yeah.
Nice. I haven't seen that in a while.
I don't think I've ever seen Dark Man. I told a story about that on the podcast one time.
If we do Sam Raimi, we've been talking about doing a Raimi month.
Maybe we.
Ooh, is he Dark Man?
I would.
That's a Dark Man movie.
Yeah,
He
and
directed
Spider-Man.
it.
And Multiverse of Madness and Evil Dead movies.
Oh, wait. When's that? That's coming out in May, right?
Yeah. It might line
I
up.
cannot.
Let's talk about it. Let's end this now.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah. Anyway,
forget to
well,
put a
thank
picture.
you all for watching. This has been another episode of Hello, did you see this one? Perhaps. The movie Boss Level was the movie, and I don't think that I have said enough. I can't say enough about this movie. If you're out there and you see it, that's unfortunate for you. But for for Kaylin and Jason, I am Steven.
For Steven and Kaylin, I'm Jason.
That's what I was saying.
For
Almost.
Jason and Steven, I'm Kellen.
And can I ask you guys a question over here?
It all depends. Have you seen this one?
Hey, did you see this one? I looped and I forgot, maybe.
I feel like I'm looping. I mean, hey, did you see this one?
I'm loopy.
Don't forget to put a picture on the show.
Hey, did you see this one?
No.
Yeah, I saw it.
I saw it too. Okay, bye guys. Love you both. I'll talk to you later.